Mother's Day is almost here, and you can get her the most beautiful time-tested gift around. A watch she can wear every day from Movement. Whether your mom is into classic dress watches, rare and refined ceramics, or tried-and-true bestsellers, Movement has something she'll love. And right now, everything at Movement is up to 50% off site-wide during their Mother's Day sale. A watch is a gift that celebrates all the time you spent with mom. And a Movement watch is even more than that. Movement uses industry-leading materials for their fresh modern watch designs, from technically complex ceramics to vintage-inspired style. All for an incredible value your wrist and wallet will both love. And with one-size-fits-all convenience and fast free shipping and returns, it's a stress-free shopping experience. Save big on the best Mother's Day gift ever with Movement. Get up to 50% off site-wide during their Mother's Day sale at mvmt.com. Again, that's up to 50% off at mvmt.com.
We made this.
All right, the Season 3 finale is a big one, and Michael Burnham helpfully reminds everyone of our podcast. So thank you, Sonequa Martin Green, for the shout-out. Yes, we are Starfleet. This podcast is hosted by two longtime Trek fans, Mike Slamer and Ian Buckley. Please get in touch with us on Twitter or Instagram. Our handle is @StarfleetPod. Ian, do we have any emails?
Oh, that's such a great question. As of yesterday, we did not. Let me do another quick check.
Oh, yeah. So, folks, if you would like to send us an email, please do. We have no emails, but if you wanted to, we are Starfleet WMTR@gmail.com is how you can reach us. And we will we will read your email out loud on the show, good or bad, provided it's not terribly long.
Yeah, and I think now that we're at season's end, we're certainly still going to be taking in any email, questions, feedback, whatever, and we'll do like a mailbag episode in between seasons, depending on how much response we get.
Sure. And Ian, you and I, we're gonna come back and talk about season 3 overall in a future episode. So
true. Yeah, we're gonna be back to talk about the season as a whole, and we have another special guest coming down the line. I don't know if you want to share that yet or just keep teasing it, but we do have at least one more interview lined up as of right now.
We do. Another cast member from the show is going to be joining us on a future episode, so I am very excited for that. Stay tuned. Always make sure you're watching our Twitter for some updates on that.
Yep, keep subscribing. Stuff will pop up in the feed.
They will. It will, man. Like, it'll just pop up. I think we'll probably take some time off, but,
of course.
We deserve it, man. Come on.
Goddamn right.
This episode clocked in over an hour long. We have a ton to break down and discuss, but first I have to get something off my chest.
Shoot.
On Twitter, Star Trek fans have zero chill. There are mad spoilers all over the place, screen caps of the final act, quoting the big reveal with multiple hashtags. And, man, like, I get it. These folks, they're excited. They're happy about the resolution. They want to share their joy, their feelings, whether it's happiness or disappointment. And I understand. But Thursday afternoon, taking a screen grab of the final act and like the big reveal and just like, oh my God, I'm so excited. And then hashtagging like Star Trek Discovery, Star Trek Picard, Star Trek Voyager. It's like, come on, man, you're spoiling it.
Yeah. I hate spoilers myself. I do, whenever there's something I'm looking forward to, I do try to stay off of any and all social media if I can.
Yeah.
But, that's the thing with especially, feed-based social media like Twitter. Sometimes you just log on and bam, it's there. You can't even try to look away. And, it's really unfortunate when people in their well-intentioned enthusiasm can ruin that experience for others.
Yeah. And I hate that comeback. It's like, oh, well, just stay off the internet. That's just lazy to me.
It's not practical.
You're not going to stay off the internet just for one TV show, no matter how much you love it. It's necessary. And you don't know. You open a thing and there it is.
Yeah, like face. I said, if it's just in a feed, then it can pop up without you. There are ways to spoiler tag tweets too.
That's true.
You can actually make that effort if you are so eager to start the conversation. I think we can both reasonably ask that people be respectful, not to share spoilers with people who haven't yet seen the episode.
Yeah. Especially our international audiences. They get the episode, I think, on a delay.
That's a good point. Yeah.
They if they log on Twitter on a Thursday, they've already ruined the episode because they're not going to get it till 24 hours later.
So yeah, be mindful of spoilers, folks. It's just good manners.
Just good manners. With that said, Star Trek Discovery Episode 13, That Hope Is You, Part 2, written by showrunner Michelle Paradise and directed by returning Star Trek alumni director Olatunde Osunsanmi. And the more episodes he directs, the better I will get at pronouncing his name. So, what did you think of this finale?
So overall, I have mixed feelings. I think
Sure.
Part of that is because it's still very fresh. A lot happened. We'll get into how much happened. I think also, for me at least, coming off of what I thought were two very, very strong episodes to start off this kind of 3-part finale, it did feel like a noticeable step down in how well paced it felt, and there were just more things that weren't working for me in this episode than in the last 2 episodes. Really combined, if I'm being brutally honest.
Yeah.
It was probably one of my least favorite of the season, probably in my bottom 3 when I do my sort of end of season ranking of episodes. But that might change on rewatches. I did like it a little bit more on my second watch for sure.
Okay.
And I want to be very clear, there are parts of it that I really, really, really like. That just, it's the thing, we've mentioned this when talking about Discovery as a whole and other seasons and other episodes of this one, where, when things are working really well on the show, it's very exciting and it's very rewarding to watch, and it makes it more frustrating when it's in contrast to things that aren't working really well sometimes in the very next scene.
Yeah, I echo that absolutely, and that has been a running theme throughout our breakdowns of each episode. When they do it right, they go big and they really get it right. And because of that, those peaks and those valleys, once we hit the bottom of those valleys, it's harder to watch because that the potential is there for it to be better than it is.
Sure.
For me, honestly, and I'll be honest with you, I'll be honest with our listeners who have been along with us since episode 1 of season 3. I'm pretty disappointed in this finale. There were a lot of wonderful opportunities for character arcs to be resolved, for heroic moments that never come, and for future stories to be written that we now will never get as a result of how they wrap things up. And there are so many great visuals. We've spoken before, the VFX team has done a great job, and that carries through here. We finally get some Starship Voyager. We see the Navarre fleet come in. I thought that the warp effect that was done was really well done. But on a rewatch, it occurs to me that, these things are nice, but they are a result of fairly contrived plot devices to get us into certain positions. So it was, even on a second watch, I felt like it was a little dicey for me. So definitely bottom 3 in terms of episodes for this season.
Yeah, it's too bad that, whereas I think we felt, at least I did, that in many ways the end of season 2, was a high note for that season. Certainly visually spectacular and exciting and all of that. And I don't know, when I finished the end of that season, I was really excited to see what happened next. I'm sort of excited to see what happens next. Of course I'm excited. I'm a huge Star Trek fan. I have we have a podcast dedicated to Star Trek Discovery. Obviously we're excited to see what happens next season. But, I was left feeling a little cold, which, was really too bad because it clearly wasn't their intent.
Yeah, one thing that I had expressed in our previous episodes is that I didn't want this finale to just tie a bow on everything and kind of wipe the slate clean. And that's what the finale did in a few ways.
It did in some way. Yeah, we'll get into it once we actually hit the epilogue, but there were definitely and there's going to be opportunities to have this be kind of retconned next season. They still don't have next season hasn't come out yet. They're still shooting it. So I don't know what they have planned for it, but yeah, I think especially once we discuss the epilogue at length, we'll get into that. I have the same issue.
Fair enough. So over on social media, I did pull a few quotes here, on Twitter at Mr_EJ says, and I echo this absolutely, can't wait for the DOT23 friendship next season.
Definitely.
Yeah, that one scene where OO and Jet Reno reboot one of the DOT23s and they're all like happy and smiling. That was pure joy. Loved it.
Absolutely. At Caspa Sci-Fi on Twitter said he thought that the planet story with Saru's group was very well done, and the ship takeover story had a very Star Wars feel to it. And of course, everything worked out at the last moment. Still, it was a great ride. Fair enough. I definitely share the sentiment. I really thought all of the B plot, as it were, with Saru down on the dilithium planet really worked well. It was definitely the most consistently well executed part of this week's episode. And yeah, I did feel like the Star Wars-y, kind of action sequence we got, especially in the turbolifts, which we'll get to a little bit later. Yeah, Star Wars was definitely kind of what I was feeling. I was getting kind of like an episode 2 Coruscant, Anakin jumping down from on high to a vehicle passing down. Like I had flashbacks to that movie and how much I don't like it.
Ouch. Yeah. Over on Reddit, user Wiccan Denali says, I didn't realize the turbolifts occupied a different dimension.
Yeah, there were some pocket dimension questions raised by that turbolift sequence. We'll get into it when we get there. I had a lot of thoughts. So did the internet.
Same. So did the internet. Yeah, that whole turbolift sequence. We'll get into it.
Yeah.
User Meat Mill says this season's makeup has been bad. And they go on a full diatribe in the comments. So, listeners, if you are curious as to what user Meat-Mill said on Reddit, simply go to our Star Trek Discovery /episode discussion 313 That Hope Is You Part 2. Because not for nothing, they're right. I thought that the makeup was really not good, and it really shows in the mirror universe with how stark the makeup is in those episodes versus all the rest. You can really tell.
Okay. I will take your word for it.
Fair enough.
I think the only makeup effect, at least if we're talking about aliens, the only makeup effect that still doesn't quite work for me is what they've done to the Orions.
Interesting.
It still has there's just a slight waxiness, particularly it's less of a problem with Osira, but more of a problem with her nephew and whatever bumbling idiot Orion we encountered in the first episode. They had this waxy look to their face, because I think they actually add prosthetics to the face and then paint over that as opposed to just painting the face directly. And I don't know, maybe I'm old fashioned. I kind of think that Orions are one of those looks that didn't really need to be changed. Paint a person green, you're done.
Oh, okay. All right.
But anyway, that's the only kind of makeup irk that I had this season. But people, Star Trek fans are nothing if not passionate about their details.
Absolutely.
RLM Zeppelin on Reddit said that I liked how the super advanced 32nd century warp core ejection system is just a space laundry chute, complete with sparks as it scrapes along the side. That was a little funny.
I had some thoughts about that we'll get into once we reach that point.
I think that's it, man. Let's get into the episode proper. It's a long one.
Yeah, let's do it. So we pick up inside the holodeck ship, the KSF Kiev. And just as a reminder, Hugh Culber is now a Bajoran. Captain Saru is a human. And Adira has beamed down from Book's ship onto the dilithium planet, onto the ship, the Kiev, and Adira appears as a Zahayan, which you may remember from season 2, the race of people whose princess had discovered a new way to refine the dilithium crystals.
And Gray appears visible in tow behind Adira as a oh my goodness, a Vulcan, right? Or is he a Romulan?
Yep, I thought it was Vulcan. It wasn't clearly stated, but
True.
I assumed Vulcan right out of the gate.
A pointy-eared alien.
Yes.
And yeah, much to the surprise of Saru, Culber, and really Adira and Gray themselves. There's a corporeal being there. I really liked that I thought it was really interesting that the holoprogram interpreted his presence as a real corporeal being in some way. Much more sort of proof positive that this is not just a hallucination. Not that I think we were being led down that path, but this is sort of on-screen confirmation for the characters themselves that, there's a real person there.
Yeah, I thought it was a great classic TNG plot element. It reminded me of the episode where Geordi and Rolaren are, they're phased, right? And they're on board the Romulan ship, and then they beam back to the Enterprise, but they went through a specific phasing sequence. It kind of reminded me of that a little bit, where no one can see them, they don't exist, but under a very specific parameter, they can be seen. So, really interesting plot element, and I think it's absolutely going to tie into season 4 in terms of how the story of their relationship evolves. So, I thought it was really cool. I thought it was a unique way to bring in that classic plot element from TNG. And also, it was really fun to kind of see the surprise. Gray walks in behind Adira like, yeah, this is just me. This is me doing my thing. And everybody can see him or see them. And hey, oh my gosh, we can be seen.
Yeah. And, the metaphor of being seen is pretty on the nose, but Trek is pretty on the nose sometimes. It's very keeping with the Trek ethos, and it's good to see Gray actually serve a practical and thematic purpose in the episode, even if they did wait until the very last episode.
Yeah, absolutely. The interesting thing about this sequence as well, the environment, the holodeck that they're in, it's glitching and it's falling apart. So the holodeck is able to render Gray, but the holodeck is also at the same time falling apart around them. So Gray is able to kind of manipulate that environment, which we'll get into in a little bit, in a way that the other characters can't.
Yeah, which I thought was, again, what a wonderful thing that now we have Gray able to actually serve not to be a dick about it, but a use in the story. I like that Gray was useful here. Yeah,
he's not just a foil they are not just a foil for Adira. And apologies to anyone listening.
Have Gray's pronouns discussed on the show? I don't recall. Obviously, they've made a very big point of Adira's, but.
Well, I know that the actor Ian Alexander, their pronouns are they them.
Okay, so then I think we'll default to that if we can. Apologies if we forget, but I think that makes sense.
Right. So, back to the holodeck, they're still trying to rescue Su'Kal. Su'Kal is still afraid. This monster is here. It's observing them, right? Adira arrives, brings them the medicine. They can see Gray. The monster is still there. Su'Kal is still kind of on the run inside this hollow environment. And this is where we are picking up with the holodeck story. Meanwhile, at Federation headquarters, the flagship Viridian, the Emerald Chain ship that Osira arrives on, they are blasting away at Starfleet shields, while inside Starfleet headquarters,
Mother's Day is almost here, and you can get her the most beautiful time-tested gift around. A watch she can wear every day from Movement. Whether mom's into classic dress watches, rare and refined ceramics, or tried-and-true bestsellers, Movement has something she'll love. And right now, you can save big on the best Mother's Day gift ever with up to 50% off site-wide during Movement's Mother's Day sale at MVMT.com. Again, that's up to 50% off at mvmt.com. Mother's Day is almost here, and you can get her the most beautiful time-tested gift around. A watch she can wear every day from Movement. Whether your mom is into classic dress watches, rare and refined ceramics, or tried and true bestsellers, Movement has something she'll love. And right now, everything at Movement is up to 50% off site-wide during their Mother's Day sale. A watch is a gift that celebrates all the time you spent with mom. And a Movement watch is even more than that. Movement uses industry-leading materials for their fresh modern watch designs, from technically complex ceramics to vintage-inspired style. All for an incredible value your wrist and wallet will both love. And with one-size-fits-all convenience and fast free shipping and returns, it's a stress-free shopping experience. Save big on the best Mother's Day gift ever with Movement. Get up to 50% off site-wide during their Mother's Day sale at mvmt.com. Again, that's up to 50% off at mvmt.com.
The Discovery itself, under command of Osira, is in a firefight with 6 other Starfleet vessels. And I gotta be honest with you here, while the Discovery, under control of Osira, is trying to escape Starfleet HQ, there's a lot of great, we've been waiting for this. I have been waiting for this. I've been waiting for some pew-pew action.
Pew-pew-pew!
Right? And it did not deliver. And I was very surprised.
I was left feeling pretty cold by the whole battle sequence.
Admiral Vance calls out the starship Voyager to lead this fleet against the Viridian while the Discovery is escaping, right? And I thought for sure, okay, yes, alright, it's not happening inside Starfleet headquarters, we're gonna go outside. Okay, Starship Voyager, you name drop that? Hell yeah, alright, who are we gonna see on the bridge of the Voyager? I was expecting so much more, we didn't get it, and that is what it is.
Yeah, and not to keep comparing it to the season 2 finale, but, that I thought unfolded and was staged in a really compelling way, at least for me. I know some people probably didn't like it because everyone has different tastes, but I was clear on what was happening, what ships were involved, what everyone's responsibility in the battle was. It looked clean and compelling visually, and this just like I said, it left me feeling kind of cold. It would have been great, I don't need to pop on the bridge of Voyager, but it would have been nice if I could tell for 2 seconds which ship Voyager was and what it was doing in that fight, besides just the conversation. And we'll get into it, but when the reinforcements show up, we don't even see them. I mean, we see them, but we don't really see them. We don't need every shot to be spaceship porn, but it just seemed like a missed opportunity, which will be a running theme today.
Yes. I think the big running theme is missed opportunities for the finale. There's this whole section.
I'm sorry, I had to make one more point about that. Did it at all stand out to you that I know the Disco got all these upgrades, but it's still a Crossfield class ship. It's relatively small compared to these other ships, and it's outnumbered at least 6-1. It seems to be able to take a hell of a beating from all of these other super advanced ships. And I was a little. It just took me out of it a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I had a hard time watching that entire sequence because it was 6v1 inside Starfleet HQ. The Viridian wasn't even engaged at that point. They were just weakening the shields around
and the
around
inside
Starfleet.
on the bridge of the Discovery. They're taking damage, and it's the same old sparks flying from the ceiling. It's just it's not compelling, and it's not different.
Yeah,
and this show is supposed to be compelling and different.
Right. You are absolutely right. It definitely seems like there's being a lot more damage done than what's shown. There's this whole part where Admiral Vance needs to protect the shield emitter against the Discovery's attack. It doesn't mean anything, they need to protect the shield emitter, but the Viridian is blasting away at the shields anyway, and how come there's 6 of these vessels? And there's this whole point where Kovich, the guest star David Cronenberg, he says, we have to protect the spore drive because this is the device that we're going to use to bring hope and bring peace to the worlds of the Federation. Admiral Vance says, well, if Osira has the spore drive and can reach those planets first, then it doesn't matter. The Federation is going to fall. We have to protect what we can. We have to destroy the Discovery. So 6v1, but then anyway, all this to say, there's a lot going on, and it's kind of a mess.
It's a little muddy. Not in terms of color palette, but just in terms of
who's doing what,
not being able to distinguish things visually, and it's not staged in a way that's exciting. And like there's just not an excuse for that in a show where we've already seen that they know how to do that. It's a little, it's hard to feel like, especially in the season finale, like, right? Like we've been building to this. Our expectations are, maybe they're too high. I don't know, but they're at least, they weren't even close to meeting them for me personally.
So Zara brings Michael Burnham to the bridge. Burnham has been captured after ejecting Stamets in an emergency force field pod. And, this is another thing. The Discovery can't escape. It only has your run-of-the-mill warp drive at this point. So Osira can't use the spore drive the way that she had intended to. And as a result of this, it feels like the stakes are really quite low. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but if Osira can't jump with Discovery and it's just a regular old ship, then it's 6v1, like even the Viridian, how can it withstand an entire, armada of Starfleet vessels at this point? So it is somewhat questionable to me that we should feel at all pressured by what's going on screen.
Osira's on the bridge pressuring Book to reveal the location of the lithium planet. And this is when Burnham name checks our podcast, which is nice.
Yes.
Because they learned that Tilly and the gang have started to cause mischief, and that that whole process is beginning. The stakes in this battle seem a little strange.
They do. And to your point earlier, it is because it all seems to be very muddy at the outset. And I was kind of surprised that things didn't go Burnham's way earlier on. Like I was really convinced that the reason it was so paced in such a way was because they were going to wrap up the Emerald Chain storyline before the first act.
Ah, I see. Gotcha. That might have been interesting. I mean, given the ends that it came to, they might as well have done that. I hadn't considered that, but I could see why you would think that for sure. And back at Federation HQ, Stamets is trying to, beg Vance just as he did Burnham before, but Vance is like, nope, she was right. I would have ejected you too, and in fact, I'm going to send you as far away from here as possible.
He wants to put Stamets on a civilian ship to get him away.
Yeah, he's getting sent off to Siberia until Osira's dealt with. And, this is when the reinforcements from Navarre that, Burnham called in, responding presumably to the message that Burnham sent out. Really good turnaround time, by the way, like really fast.
Yeah.
The message
Maximum
gets
warp.
out, the message gets out there like maybe 15 minutes prior to this. And I'm exaggerating, of course, but it hasn't been very long. And from that,
right.
Burnham's mother turns to the government of Navarre, and they get approval to send a fleet. So good on them. But then we don't really even get to see the fleet. We're told that the Navarre ships are blocking Osira from leaving Federation HQ now. So now she's stuck, and she's about to lash out because she's in this sort of cornered animal situation.
Right. The pressure is on. You have the bridge crew led by Sylvia Tully, starting to retake the ship. They're in a firefight with the regulators. There are some great action sequences here with the DOT23s, kind of being treated a little bit as cannon fodder and distracting the regulators and giving cover fire to the bridge crew as they attempt to retake the ship. And in a way, here, Osira fights back by having all of her crew members retreat to the bridge and to different decks and completely draining all life support in a very slow, methodical fashion. So it's a slow drain. It's not like we're just...
Mother's Day is almost here, and you can get her the most beautiful, time-tested gift around. A watch she can wear every day from Movement. Whether mom's into classic dress watches, rare and refined ceramics, or tried and true bestsellers, Movement has something she'll love. And right now you can save big on the best Mother's Day gift ever with up to 50% off site-wide during Movement's Mother's Day sale at mvmt.com. Again, that's up to 50% off at mvmt.com. Mother's Day is almost here, and you can get her the most beautiful, time-tested gift around. A watch she can wear every day from Movement. Whether your mom is into classic dress watches, rare and refined ceramics, or tried and true bestsellers, Movement has something she'll love. And right now, everything at Movement is up to 50% off site-wide during their Mother's Day sale. A watch is a gift that celebrates all the time you spent with mom. And a Movement watch is even more than that. Movement uses industry-leading materials for their fresh, modern watch designs, from technically complex ceramics to vintage-inspired style. All for an incredible value your wrist and wallet will both love. And with one-size-fits-all convenience and fast free shipping and returns, it's a stress-free shopping experience. Save big on the best Mother's Day gift ever with Movement. Get up to 50% off site-wide during their Mother's Day sale at mvmt.com. Again, that's up to 50% off at mvmt.com.
Opening the ship and draining that one deck that the bridge crew was on, it's like a torture sequence, right? Where it's a slow trickle and you're slowly losing oxygen. So Osira is kind of toying with them a little bit and saying, because she's got Burnham and she's got Book, and she's like, listen, if you guys don't cooperate with me, I'm going to kill your friends.
And as a result, Burnham basically is like, actually what Osira says before Burnham calls Vance is that she's going to deploy space DDT and therefore take out the other ships that are inside Federation HQ. It's not 100% clear exactly how this would work. Apparently some of the pesticides that they've developed they would put out in space, and then somehow they would get into the other ships, and they were going to launch torpedoes at it, and the shrapnel was going to spread the pesticide.
Was it like a gaseous chemical in a vacuum?
Yeah, that would somehow get in. Like she said, she would target the intakes. What intakes are there on spaceships in space? Like, it was, as you can probably tell from the way I'm talking about it, not my fave.
Yeah, that definitely raised a lot of eyebrows. Just the sheer fact of like a pesticide in space, and number one, like it would just dissipate, and there's no pretext surrounding what this quote unquote pesticide can actually do other than disperse pests on one particular planet.
Happens when that gets deployed against another ship before this, establish that it's a threat. Otherwise it just sounds, it was really empty-handed. Laughable. I mean, it was beyond that. I mean, like, get the pesticide ready. You're in space. What are you talking about? Like, what? Get the pesticide ready.
It absolutely begged for more context that we just did not get. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, like, I don't know. Say you're going to blow up the warp core. I mean, like, or eject you could eject the warp core and then detonate it, almost as if that's something that would come up later. While you have control of the ship and its systems. It's kind of beyond me. If all you're looking to do is just take out these ships, not space pesticide. Not space pesticide.
Right. So the Navarre fleet that has come in to back up Starfleet, they are blocking the Discovery from escaping, right? So this is when Osira is saying like, we're going to deploy the pesticides and we're going to target all the shuttle bays and airlocks. And, okay, yeah, but if you're telling me that, then I know not to get my shuttle bays and my airlocks in line in your pesticides. Anyway, Burnham basically says, hey, listen, I'm going to talk to Admiral Vance. I'm going to convince him to stand down. So, hailing frequencies are opened, and we have this nice little dialogue between Burnham and Vance where Burnham basically says, hey, listen, I know we haven't always seen eye to eye, but you gotta trust me. I know what I'm doing. And Vance is clearly very aggravated. This is not the way he wants to do this. So, he kind of just hangs up and he's like, do whatever you want, And at this point, Osyraa escorts Burnham and Booker off the bridge and down to sickbay because Aurelio, our favorite Emerald Chain scientist, played by Kenneth Mitchell, he has a truth serum that he can use on Booker to reveal the location of the dilithium planet.
Yes, he's going to, they're going to extract the information from Book.
Yeah, apparently it's a very painful process due to Booker's unique empathic abilities.
Yeah, and we get to see more moral uncertainty from Aurelio here, which builds on what we saw last week. It makes sense that he'd be hesitant about this. He keeps insisting that this is going to be really painful, and Osyraa's basically like, yeah, I don't care.
Right.
I don't know how you. She basically says to him, like, I don't know how you thought I was a different person.
Osyraa literally picks up Aurelio out of the wheelchair by his throat and strangles him into submission.
Yeah.
Directs, says, hey, listen, you are going to do this. True serum or not, Zara is there, the big bad guy from episode 2, Far From Home. He went head to head with Tilly a little bit there. Zara is there, and he's got this neural lock that they had used on Stamets, right? And Aurelio is saying, no, please don't. It's gonna cause excruciating pain. Don't use it. Osyraa chokes him. He loses consciousness and he falls, and Zara places this mind control device on Booker, and it's clear that he is in pure agony and distress. He's screaming, he's shouting, he's yelling, there's lots of noise. And this is where Zara tells Burnham, because Burnham is pleading, like, please, no, don't do that, don't do it. It's not a good, it's gonna hurt him. Zara says, well, if you don't tell us, he's just gonna keep doing, we're just gonna keep doing this. You're in a no-win situation. Burnham replies, well, I don't believe in those, which I thought was a nice callback there to Captain Kirk, even if the dialogue didn't exactly get phrased in the same way.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know if we mentioned that how we got here was basically Burnham convinced Osyraa and then Vance to let them out of Federation HQ. Once she Osyraa threatens the space pesticide, Burnham panics and says, no, let me talk to Vance and I will talk him into letting us go, basically. And she does. Vance lets them go, and that's when, they take Book down to sickbay to get the coordinates tortured out of him. And of course, once Michael makes this gesture towards Osyraa to have Vance let them out, she wants Tilly and the gang to be allowed to live, and Osyraa's like, nope, because again, she's the worst.
Right. I mean, she's a villain.
Yeah.
Through and through. Yeah. Which, it really, man. And again, this is something that, the previous episode had really set up well in making Osyraa a little bit more complex and layered than we had originally believed, right? Last episode, I believe it was Luke who said that Osyraa now has some depth that she didn't have before, and that made her more interesting as a character, as an individual. And honestly, I had thought in this episode it would have gone a completely different way. So, which we'll get into as we get into Osyraa's character arc as well. But I thought going back to this one note villainy was kind of a shame, kind of a waste of what I thought had been really built well in the previous episode.
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, I kind of get it. She's lashing out because she's got that cornered animal thing going on. This gambit with Phoenix that failed was her very last last gasp at trying to win, to get it all. And she's just trying to salvage whatever she can out of the situation. She's lashing out at people, she's killing people indiscriminately and to an even larger extent than she was maybe already inclined to. And, it just seems clear that she's deteriorated. And unfortunately, it does make it less interesting because we did get this glimpse of a more complex character last week. And again, it feels like there was a missed opportunity with Osira this season looking back on it.
Yeah. So over on the Kieth, you have Captain Saru sharing a meal with Su'Kal. And this is one of those beautiful moments that Discovery does so well when it contemplates a character and their dynamic and their growth. And
when you make decisions for your company, you look for the no-brainers. And if you have a lot of mailing to do, Stamps.com is the ultimate no-brainer. Mail checks, invoices, documents, and everything you need to keep your business running. Get rates up to 89% off USPS and UPS. And with the mobile app, you can take care of mailing on the go. Make the same no-brainer decisions as over 1 million other businesses with Stamps.com. Sign up at Stamps.com with code PROGRAM for a special offer. That's Stamps.com, code PROGRAM.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
What they want out of their own lives. Because Saru here is sitting with Su'Kal and sharing a meal that is a traditional Kelpian food dish called, see if I get this right, Sai Nu Lem. And Su'Kal says he's always wanted to make it, but the replicators and the holograms didn't do a good job of it. The instructions weren't good, they were poor, whatever, degraded. So Captain Saru says, hey, listen, I'll teach you. I learned the recipe from my father. And there's a bit of back and forth here where Su'Kal clearly can't comprehend how a human holo could know how to eat a traditional Kelpian dish. Like, that doesn't line up. That doesn't make any sense. And this is where Saru reveals, he says, listen, things are not as they appear to be. I am, in fact, a Kelpian. Even though Su'Kal is like, you're obviously a holo. No one's come from the, quote, outside in ever. And this is, for whatever reason, you're a different hologram. I don't like it. So there's a little bit of doubt there. But what I thought they did so well was giving Doug Jones this contemplative moment as Saru to say, like, hey, where do I belong in my own life? What matters to me most? And as we move forward towards the closing of Captain Saru's arc here, I wish we had spent a little bit more time with this contemplation. It would have been so well done and so well revered for Doug Jones and his character Saru to go off the way that they did. And instead it just feels, it's just not enough. I want more of that. It's a good flavor and I want more of that,
I hear that. And we'll discuss as we go into it. I think there's story logic to where, his journey ends in this particular episode. I think that, when you're faced with the situation of, okay, Su'Kal is now off the ship. Spoiler alert, guys, he gets off the ship. And Saru can't just cut him loose. I think that's clear,
Yeah.
And here we have Saru's own, tying into one of Discovery's larger themes, that of found family. Saru's getting his own found family story now. And I think that is lovely. And I would like more of it, not least of which because of the two threads going on in this episode. This was definitely the one I was enjoying more.
Yeah. And as they're eating around the fire there, Saru is explaining to Su'Kal about how the holodeck has changed appearances and changed things and how it's been degrading. And he's trying to explain to Su'Kal that, we need to leave, basically.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, and Sukal expresses his frustration. We get some of Sukal's side of things, like why he doesn't like talking about the Federation or the outside. You know, he expresses all this frustration at feeling abandoned by the Federation. You know, like, I was told that they were coming, and this has been my life for over 100 years. Like, this was not like they abandoned me. They didn't come. The outside isn't there anymore.
Yeah. The feeling of isolation and abandonment and the depression surrounding that, you know, like it's not something that we've really had an opportunity to look at before in Star Trek in such a way. And it's really well done here. Saru does explain that, you know, hey, long distance travel has been prevented. You know, this holo program was designed by your mother to keep you safe, but you were never supposed to be here this long. And Sukal says, hey, you know what? Just hold on a second. And he gets up and he walks through a door to what he had said previously used to be Kaminar.
Yeah, he wants to show Saru, Kaminar. He's like, hey, there's this door that I go through and Kaminar's there. And recently it's been taking me to other worlds, and Saru's like, yeah, you know, the system's breaking down, and, you know, there are a lot of other worlds out there too.
He does try to entice Sukal and say, you know, like, outside it's beautiful, it's diverse, and, you know, your mother, yeah, it's real. You know, your mother programmed this holodeck to teach you about the outside world so that when we arrived, you would be able to work with the outside world and to join it in a way. So at this point, the monster comes, you know, and it's scary. It's got these tentacles and it's got all this stuff, and it's there and it says, see me.
Yeah, this, you know, monster that is meant to represent Sukal's fears, you know, he demands that Sukal face him.
It's very interesting that, Sukal's mother would design and program a hologram character to be a physical manifestation of his fear.
Yeah, it's this children's story, and I think it's suggested that it would probably have been fine had he not had the traumatic experience, quote unquote, outside, seeing all those dead Kelpians and his mother dying in front of him. You know, that was his last experience outside. And so it's no wonder he doesn't want to face that. A lot of times we have trouble facing profound grief and trauma, in our past. So, it is interesting. I think it was this sort of well-intentioned, you know, sort of benchmark for him to clear as a developing being, and he unfortunately kind of had this arrested development because of the trauma that he experienced. And then, you know, if someone had shown up a year later, 2 years later, you know, maybe not so bad. But the burn happened, and that wasn't an option anymore. And so we had over 100 years of isolation to continue to kind of deteriorate along these lines.
So back aboard the Discovery, we're still in sickbay, and Booker is still being tortured, right? So, you know, there's this whole sequence, and Osiris threatening that, you know, Tilly and your friends, your crew, they're gonna be dead soon. And, you know, Admiral Vance and the Federation, they're gonna be dead. But you can save Booker right here, right now. And, you know, Burnham says, okay, fine, I'll give you what you want, I'll give you what you want. So she approaches Booker's, what do you call it? Oh my gosh. The bed. You know? Yeah. So he's laying there, he's on the bed. I can't believe I blanked on what the heck that thing is called. And, you know, she's like, oh, you know, I'm so sorry, and I don't mean to do this. But, you know, Burnham's way too smart for this stuff, right? She hits one of the consoles next to the med bay right there, and a quarantine force field goes up. Boom, emergency force field. Boom. And even though there's a couple of regulators in there, Burnham is able to knock out one of them. She hits Booker with a shot of like pure adrenaline, with the hypo spray, and Booker just bounds up, he loses that neural mind control device. He sits straight up. He takes out the other regulator right away. Now they're both armed and they get away. So Burnham and Booker are on the run.
They make a break for it. I like this sequence. I thought the use of the medical force field was pretty clever. And, this sequence, worked fine for me. All the stuff in the sick bay, worked good.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that as an action sequence. It really lined up well, especially with what we saw of John McClane. I mean, Michael Burnham in the previous episode.
Right.
It makes a lot of sense that she's still in this, I'm gonna rescue my boyfriend and we're gonna get out of here.
Yeah, it's badass. And it's a good sequence. Over in the Spore Lab, the gang is suffering from their lack of oxygen and is passing around what is apparently the only emergency oxygen mask on the entire spaceship.
Apparently, yeah.
I know this is a nitpicky thing. But like, we see like EV suits in the hallways, like last week's episode. They passed them. They passed them running in the hallway. What are you talking about? Why is there just one oxygen mask? Like, this is an important plot point. Like, it's, it just seemed a little, no, not a little. It seemed too silly. It just, it stretched credulity a bit to me, for there to just be this one mask that they all have to share and pass around on an entire spaceship. A spaceship.
Right. And not to mention, but you have these DOT23 droids which can go anywhere on the ship, which presumably, go get more oxygen, Zora. Yeah. What are you doing?
Why are you they aren't restricted in their movement or by having lungs.
Lieutenant Owashikan is not having any problems with breathing because she has superior lungs as a result of free diving back on her home world.
Yeah, I always like learning more about Oo, not just because the actor playing her is a badass, but it's always good to have these bridge crew fleshed out more and distinguished a little bit more. And she's gotten more distinguishment than I think basically anyone else besides Detmer. Which is great. I think that this particular part of the episode was a little bit of an this seemed like a rather odd and lengthy aside in this particular scene. It felt a little oddly placed to me. It wasn't that I didn't want to learn this about her. It just felt a little oddly placed in this scene given the situation, what's going on.
Right.
Everyone's running out of oxygen.
I just looked it up. I want to point out that Owashikan says she was free diving in the Ogbunika caves, which are actually in Nigeria in Africa. So
that's badass.
It's very likely that Owen actually did that. So
that's cool. I really like that detail. I said, this was not something that I didn't want to learn about her. It was just it is
oddly placed.
Oddly placed, I was also pretty distracted by the whole oxygen mask thing that annoyed me quite a bit. Also, what a missed opportunity to have, like an alien crew member who can function a little bit differently in terms of their oxygen needs. Everyone in this little gang is a human, and so they're all we had to lean on one having special breathing powers instead of hey, here's a way that this alien member of our crew can do a thing that us humans can't, and isn't that cool? That's always been such a Star Trek thing.
I was a little curious where Linus was in all this, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Bryce reports that he cannot get through the command functions due to the Emerald Chain OS overriding Discovery's core command, but they can restore the computer provided they can do a hard reset at the computer's data core.
Right. Yeah. So they learned that. So we learned that the data core is what we need to get the OS reset on the computer so that they can regain control of the ship. So now they have. Now we have a goal to work towards for Burnham and crew. Burnham actually sends a shipwide coded message for Tilly. in which she suggests setting off an explosion to disrupt the magnetic field around one of the detached nacelles, which would drop them out of warp, and give the fleet some time to catch up to them. What did you think about this whole sequence with the coded message and everything involved with that?
Well, I thought it was interesting. So Burnham swipes one of the regulator's comm badges, and she does a ship-wide, report here to tell Tilly what to do, and it's this coded message about a birthday, and Tilly didn't have a nice birthday, and they drank a little bit, and then they hung out at one of the warp nacelles for a little bit because she was going through a hard time. And I don't know, it was kind of like we never saw this happen. As viewers, we never saw this moment between Burnham and Tilly. We know that they're friends. We know that they're very close and they share a lot together. So that obviously, that works for me. It tracks. But this very specific story, it was weird. I was very confused. And, my wife and I looked at each other like, did we miss something? Was there some context that we're supposed to have here? So then Tilly explains, right? She's like, oh yeah, this is what Burnham actually means. And, she's telling us what to do. We have to go to the nacelle and fireworks. Oh, we can use a bomb to destroy these superconductors that, is holding the nacelle in place. And then it'll knock the ship out of warp and allow the pursuing fleet to catch up and all this other stuff, right? But it just seemed a little hokey that it had to be, and this is where some of this critique is going to come in, that Michael had to be the one to tell Tilly to do this. It would have been really nice for Tilly to have that redemption moment that I really thought we were going to get, where she would storm the bridge, take back the Discovery, go head to head with Zara, who, was coming at her and gave her all these looks in the previous episode, and especially in episode 2. It would have been a nice bookend to her particular character arc of losing the Discovery to Osira and the Emerald Chain to suddenly saving the Discovery from Osira and the Emerald Chain.
Right. I mean, we already have Michael doing her own thing. She didn't also have to solve this problem. She could have just solved one of the problems that were in front of them. She didn't need to solve both. And yeah, it just it goes back to everything kind of centering around Michael Burnham, which is sometimes okay, but sometimes it plays off as a little I don't know. It takes away these opportunities for these other characters who are also compelling, like Tilly, like you said, to really step forward and shine, and in more than just superficial ways.
Yeah.
Again, it just feels like a really unnecessary missed opportunity. Like there was nothing that was gained story or character wise by Michael solving that problem. Whereas if Tilly solves that problem, I think that continues her journey in a way that is really fulfilling.
Yeah. It's a missed opportunity for Tilly to have that hero moment, and I know I wanted her to have that. It would have been so rewarding.
Yeah, she felt a little neutered in this episode, to be honest. It was one of those things that disappointed me about how the sort of A story played out.
Yeah, and especially in the previous episode, you have this great moment at the very end, the closeout, where Zora in the DOT23s looked at Tilly and they're like, shall we retake the ship, Captain? And man, I was so hype. I was ready. Yes.
I'm right with you. Yeah, exactly.
I will follow Captain Tilly. I will follow Captain Killy, right? I was ready, man.
Yeah. It felt like that just petered out. And we mentioned, I'm genuinely happy that we got, a standout moment for another of the bridge crew, to save the day. She got to save the day. I think that's great. But I still think you could have had that happen while this still being, an entirely Tilly-driven enterprise, so to speak.
Right. I like that. I see what you did there.
So anyway.
So anyway, missed opportunities.
Yes.
So we're back at let's see.
Oh yeah, we're back on the planet.
We are back on the planet,
continuing to explain the hollow environment to Su'Kal and explain to Su'Kal that he's different, that he's sentient, and this is when the monster returns. Saru explains that Su'Kal has to face his fear, and that's when the creature demands to be seen.
And his fear is whatever is behind the locked door.
Yeah.
And we know, in as a viewer and as Star Trek fans, we know that is that's the holodeck door. You know, that's the point of entry.
Right. That's...
Okay, round 2. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, sorry, we were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right, ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
That's the exit. That's essentially the way out. And
computer
he
exit.
refuses to leave because the last time he left, everyone was dead, including his mother.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to face that. While this is going on, Adira, Gray, and Hugh find the edge of the hollow environment. They go back to where they interacted with the Vulcan hologram in the previous or 2 episodes ago, rather, and that hollow, as well as the others, are gone now. It's really breaking down, and there's actually a tear in sort of the edge of the holographic environment, and the radiation from outside the holodeck is too dangerous for Hugh or Adira, but Gray volunteers to step through because they're incorporeal, and they can just sort of step out. You know, this hollow image is just that. It's an image. They do seem to be able to, feel like, like they were the Doctor or something. They seem to have a sort of a tactile sense, but
sure.
But isn't subject to the, to the deleterious effects of this radiation the way that the others would be. Coming through, Hugh and Adira realize that it was Su'Kal getting upset that caused the burn, which ties into this overall theme of how destructive emotional trauma can be.
Yeah, it's a good note, and when it comes to Star Trek plot devices, I'm good with this. I mean, we have Gary Mitchell as a superpowered being. We have Q, right? Like, we have Wesley Crusher going off and becoming a traveler. So having Su'Kal be uniquely tied in to subspace and dilithium, and having developed this and having his genes mutated in such a way, I'm good with that. It's a nice character moment, and I like that the burn wasn't caused by some kind of an adversary. It wasn't an enemy. It wasn't some massive bomb that went off and killed everybody, out of malice. It was an accident.
It was, and it was, tantrums can be really devastating.
Yeah. Culber explains to Adira that Su'Kal is a polyploid. So a polyploid is when it's a heritable condition of possessing more than 2 complete sets of chromosomes.
Right. So rather than just the set that you get from each parent, you actually have additional sets. Polyploids can have, there are different kinds of polyploids that have different numbers of additional sets, but that's the basic gist of it. Instead of the usual 2 that you're given, you have more.
Right. For example, many of the plants that we eat today are polyploids.
Yes.
Yeah. Very interesting. Very interesting to learn.
some animals, but it's
it was fish and amphibians are usually So a little bit of science there. That was an interesting mutation born out of actual real world science.
Yeah, so Su'Kal's basically an X-Men, which is fine.
He's an X-Men.
Yeah, he's got mutated by exposure to all of this radiation and the this, that, and the other, and he's different, and that's why this happened, and it was nobody's fault. Not really.
So are we going to get like a crossover with James McAvoy at any time soon?
I mean, we should. There was that Star Trek Next Gen X-Men crossover book. I don't know if you ever read that one.
I vaguely recall it. I remember it being just as bad as it sounds.
I recall the cover. I don't think I ever read it. I just remember going, oh my God, is this a real thing?
A lot of those comics are pretty questionable. But that's the fun of them too. I mean, they take you to places you wouldn't expect. I like here the realization that Su'Kal actually caused the burn, and it's separate from Su'Kal being in the room, and that they discover that. And hey, did I call this or what? They actually call out that Adira calls out that his tantrum was at the same resonant frequency of the dilithium.
Which makes sense. I mean, I still think the sort of mechanics of what happened during the burn are a little muddy to me. I don't know if we'll ever get more clarification about that. That's sort of that's going to be one of the running sort of comments that I have about this season once we do the wrap up is that some of the world building felt a little undercooked. The burn was kind of one of those things, like, I still don't know why it didn't destroy all the dilithium, or it didn't render all of the dilithium inert everywhere forever, or what exactly happened to the it was never really made very clear. Whatever.
Su'Kal discovers that the elder hologram that he had always run to for comfort and for education and just as a friendly face, because the elder was also a Kelpian, that hologram is gone. And Saru explains, like, yeah, it's because the program is breaking down. It's dying, and we are going to be trapped here if we can't get out. Saru says, hey, let's go to this locked room. We have to face it. It's time. Like, we need to face your fear. Back aboard the Discovery, you have Tilly and the rest of the bridge crew struggling with the thinning oxygen, the hypoxia, to reach the access point for the ship's warp nacelle. All of them have basically collapsed in the corridor. They're falling to their knees. They can't breathe, except for our girl, Lieutenant Owashikan.
Yeah, Owo is the only one who is going to be able to make it to the nacelle due to her aforementioned championship breath holding.
Yes.
And I'll say I was genuinely worried for Owo a bit here. I mean, I know she's filming season 4, so we kind of were like, well, we know on the one hand, I was like, well, she can't die because she's in season 4, but there's flashbacks, there's things, there's the mirror universe. I mean, I didn't know when it got to this, I was a little concerned for her. So that was part of this episode that definitely worked for me. I was a little surprised that actually at the end none of those bridge crew died, or I was a little surprised that everyone kind of made it. It seemed like they were setting us up for someone to not make it.
A good bit here on the pacing and really setting it up and telegraphing, because this is what Discovery has tricked us on in the past, especially with Arium and Commander Nan, where they set up these character moments and we learn more about them. We're like, oh, yay, we know more about this character now. And then, boom, you're off the show, right?
Like, no, she can hold her breath really long. I just learned that. Please don't die.
That's exactly what it felt like. So Tilly collapses and says, oh, well, you're the only one who can do this. And they all think that this is a suicide mission because they're going to be taking this bomb to the warp nacelle and setting it off to create a chain reaction to disable the ship. And they think, rightfully so, that, hey, that's basically a death sentence.
Yeah, no, you're right. She's a total badass. She just doesn't blink. She's like, all right, I know this is a suicide mission. I'm going to do it.
She's going to do it. She's got to save her friends.
We are Starfleet.
We are Starfleet. You can follow us at Starfleet Pod on Instagram and Twitter.
And Book and Burnham are under fire too. They duck into a turbolift to escape some regulators. And
here we go.
We get a very Star Wars feeling sequence inside the cavernous turbolift system, which looks a lot more like cars flying around in Blade Runner than anything we've seen in the lift system before. I think am I right? Was it the Kelvinverse movies that we first saw this kind of concept of the turbolifts inside the ship, like zipping around and all this stuff? Like, is that we were introduced to this concept? Because I feel like I remember the turbolift, outside the turbolift in at least one episode of TNG, maybe Deep Space Nine as well, and they were basically just elevator shafts.
Right. I think you're right. I think it was maybe Star Trek 2009 that introduced the concept of all this empty space around the turbolift shaft as it went from connection point to connection point.
Which, like, as
very
a
interesting
concept, I'm not opposed to. That just seems like it was dialed up way too far.
Way too far. Like, here's the thing. I had always thought the depictions of the turbolift traveling between decks in season 1 and season 2 of Discovery were basically like an exploded version. Like, for example, if we were tiny little ants inside the turbolift and that was our perspective, right? But we're not, and here they dialed it way up, and it looked like a scene out of Blade Runner.
Yep. And like I said before, it kind of reminded me too of the whatever it was, the chase sequence in episode 2 of Star Wars. God damn it. Anakin jumps out of one of the cars down to one like far below, and I got a flashback.
Right, they're on Coruscant. Yeah,
Burnham jumps out of the Burnham jumps out of the turbolift to one far below, and I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, you're so right. They're
ripping off Attack of the Clones. Good God, why?
Of all movies to want to rip off,
of all of the Star Wars movies to rip off visually, why that one?
It's really questionable. And another thing, like, Michael is able to magically hack into the turbolift to reprogram its coordinates. And this is another thing that kind of took me out. There was no two-way communication between the bridge crew and Bryce and Michael. Michael was saying, hey, you guys go knock out the nacelle. And it was with Bryce who revealed that we can get to the data core. So unless I missed something, Burnham had no idea about going to the data core, but suddenly she just knows to go to the data core. I mean, okay, I guess that makes sense.
I think she reaches the same conclusion. I think she just reaches the conclusion on her own. Like, Osira was like, hey, I would have come to the data core too. Like, that was, like, Osira's like, I used my brain to figure out that the only thing you could do would be to come to the data core. And Burnham's like, I used my brain to figure out the only thing I could do to come, was to come to the data core. And, then they proceeded to have a fight.
Right.
Yeah, I think that was just a, Michael, of course, knew where to go.
Michael knew where to go. I mean,
Michael knew where to go.
Yeah. I did think that the actual fight itself with Book, Burnham, and the regulators as they're getting into the turbolift was pretty compelling. And having Burnham shoot a guy from above and then fall through and fall right on her side. I mean, whoever Sonequa Martin Green's stunt person is, damn, that must have hurt, because it sounded and looked like it hurt.
Yeah, no, a lot of the action was well executed. It was just the way the whole thing was staged in this wild environment, just completely crazy scale environment. It just felt a little bit too much like is it going to sound like a weird complaint? It just felt a little bit too blockbustery. It just felt a little bit too.
It did.
And again, if it had maybe been in a different setting rather than inside the ship, that we know its dimensions. We actually, because we're nerds, we know how big the ship is. And this makes no sense. And maybe it's only pulling people like you and me and other Star Trek fans who pay attention to details like this out of it, but it pulls me out of a little bit. Just because it's supposed to be an exciting action sequence, I don't necessarily want to be going, what the hell is why? You know, like I don't need to be having those distracting thoughts about the fact that the environment in which this compelling action is taking place makes no sense.
Yeah. To be fair, we did have a couple of great turbolift fight sequences in season 1 and season 2. And I'm specifically remembering the one in season 1 where Michael kills her friend in the mirror universe.
Oh yeah.
And as he tries, and there's like that, and then, you know, the turbolift goes to zero gravity and it's this whole stabby stab part. So I'm wondering if maybe they were like, we don't want to rehash this exactly, but we want to have a fight in a turbolift. And I understand that these close quarters is not only hard to film in, but it's hard to make interesting. But at the same time, like, it's a turbo lift, you know, like how much more can you do with it? And why are we opening a door on the other side and jumping, you know, thousands of feet below? I mean, you know, the poor guy who falls, you know, could have opened a parachute and landed safely.
Right. Yeah. It just seems oddly staged. It just seems like a decision that, somewhere between it being written on the page and it being pre-visualized and then executed on the day and in post, it felt like something was lost in translation.
Yeah, the action was compelling.
I can imagine it also working on the page in a way that it doesn't necessarily on the screen because of how it was executed visually.
Right. You know, the action was so compelling, but the setting was not.
Right. It just kept pulling me out.
Yeah. Burnham like jumps. She makes a big jump and she goes to another turbolift as it's going to the data core.
Right.
And that leaves Book behind to fight off the rest of the regulators and Zara. So it's a cool, you know, fisticuffs action sequence where Book is outnumbered and he's fighting. He manages to, you know, knock out 2 of the regulators, so it's just him and Zara as they're fighting, and they're moving through this turbolift space, underbelly. I don't know. Turbolift City. Yeah. Sounds like something out of Cyberpunk.
It looks like it.
Yeah. It's a really cool fight, and I honestly, I didn't hate it. It ends really well, with Zara's about to knock out Book and, you know, he's taunting him. He's like, you know, do you want to die or maybe that fat cat of yours?
Yeah. Which do you think is going to make a bigger stain on the ground? You or that fat cat? She's a queen. Kicks him out of the turbolift and into that big old turbolift city. Disco hides within her.
Yeah, what a cool shot, you know, just flipping him over and ejecting Zara from the turbolift and letting him fall to his death. If it wasn't for Turbolift City, I probably would have loved that so much more.
Yeah, and the whole, you know, thing we were mentioning earlier of like, it would have been a nice thing for Tilly to have had a resolution with Zara instead of Book. But given the setup we were presented, the action sequence was good.
Yeah, and this also calls back to episode 1 where they've got no problem with murder. You know, they're just killing, right? Like, I mean, I feel like Sisko would have at least made an attempt to capture Zara and, you know, force him to stand trial in some way.
I don't know, maybe not at this point. We might be well past the point. Sisko was a bit of a hard ass.
That's true. I mean, you know, he can live with it, right? He can live with it.
He sure could.
So yeah, cutting, you know, and this is another thing with the pacing. I felt like, you know, there was a lot of cuts between action and setup. And we cut now over to Owo, where she's arriving at, the nacelle and basically out of oxygen. She's exhausted. She can barely stand. You know, her superior lung capacity is now giving out, and she's able to place the bomb into the thing that it needs to be placed into, but she's unable to make it out of the area and she collapses. But luckily, we have one of those DOT23 drones who are over there controlled by Zora. And, you know, there's this kind of like, it's this cute little, hey, come on, you're so close. Just come a little bit further and I can help you, because there's this magnetic field. And the magnetic field I felt was just kind of a plot device to force Owo to do this herself and set us up for some great big sacrificial moment that never comes. So in my opinion, let's just use the DOT23s.
Yeah, I mean, they make mention of how they'll, malfunction going out there, but, yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where these DOT23 droids, they're used all over the ship. They can go into the vacuum of space. We've seen them under the worker bees. We've seen them on the shuttle bay, and how they would not be able to access.
Okay, round 2. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, sorry, we were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right. ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
That's one very specific part of the ship that I feel like they absolutely should be able to access, because if that area is so volatile.
Right. It just seemed like a weird hand-wavy, this is why we have to send a person who we would care if they die instead of a robot, because otherwise you'd figure the maintenance bot would be able to get anywhere in the ship and not have that weird restriction on it. But, we get an exciting sequence with OO as she gets to save the day.
We do.
The bomb goes off after the Zora Dot comes back the last second to pull her free. Bang! They drop out of warp, and then we see the Viridian eat the ship up like a big old space whale.
That was an interesting scene.
Yeah. So when Disco drops out of warp, Osira's like, "Well, we're not losing the ship, so eat it."
Eat it.
And it does.
Bring us in.
We get a sense of scale of the Viridian too, like dwarfs Disco enough that she's able to take her entirely inside her with plenty of room to spare.
Yeah. Seems like the Viridian is really like a starship carrier of sorts.
Yeah, it seems at least as large as the turbolifts area.
At least, right? Oh my gosh. So we make it to the data core. Burnham is there, and she's able to jump in. And there's a couple of regulators, of course there are, and they get knocked out like no big deal. And by the way, how about these pump action phaser shotguns?
Yeah, they're pretty baller. But the one thing that's a little tricky is telling exactly which, once we get to Osira's demise, like it's a little tricky visually. You get a little bit of a clue, but it's a little tricky visually to distinguish between a lethal and a non-lethal shot. Like obviously the shots that disintegrate people are very easy to tell, but Burnham clearly stuns at least one person. You can sort of see it's a little bluish. There's a little effect that goes around the regulator. But then she's using kill shots, and I had a little trouble distinguishing between the two visually. I think I mentioned to you on the Discord chat that when Osira actually gets shot and killed, like I didn't know for sure she was dead until the epilogue. It just wasn't clear to me visually that was what had happened there.
Yeah, there's this great fight that happens, and Osira and Burnham are kind of going head to head a little bit. It's a great action sequence. I really enjoyed it. Osira seems to
have a good fight.
Yeah, Osira seems
able to hold her own.
Yeah, and she gets the upper hand on Burnham and forces her, grabs her by the throat and is literally shoving her. There must be, Orions must have some kind of super strength by comparison to humans.
I'm guessing, she considering she was able to kick the butt of Vulcans who are supposed to have superior strength to humans. And we don't really have a frame of reference for how tough Orions are, but I was a little surprised that she was able to get the upper hand on Burnham, given how much sort of fighting prowess Burnham is shown to have. But that's one of those things that just sort of happens in action movies. sometimes. Sometimes the bad guy gets the upper hand because they have to in this particular fight.
Right. And not for nothing, but Burnham has a leg wound. She's exhausted,
Totally.
Yeah.
I buy it. Nothing about it didn't pass the smell test for me. It's just a little surprising on reflection that she was able to be handled pretty easily.
And she had to swipe the boots that she's wearing from a dead regulator, so they're probably not the right size for her feet.
That's true. Her feet
she's
are probably killing
her.
Yeah.
So, okay. I'll give her a little bit. She's fighting at a disadvantage here. What did you think of that wall that Osira pushed her into?
The programmable matter wall?
Yeah.
It's definitely an OSHA violation. It was cool visually. I sort of had to figure out what happened there kind of after the fact. I wasn't really 100% sure kind of what I was looking at or what was happening or why, but it was a cool visual effect. Yeah, Osira just kind of presses her into this shifting wall of programmable matter, and Burnham just sort of sinks into it like it's quicksand or something.
It's drowning her, yeah.
And she's getting drowned, and we see it going into her mouth, filling her mouth, and
covering her eyes, getting into her nose.
Yeah, just really blinds her. And then, Osira takes a couple steps away, looks back at it, nothing happens, looks back at it, nothing happens, and then pew, pew, pew. Michael shoots her from out of the wall of programmable matter and steps out of it and tells Osira that the difference between she and her is that she doesn't give up, and Osira's apparently dead. Yeah. Big waste of potential for Osira, but you know what? Hey, if we gotta move on from this character, let's move on from that character, I guess. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is.
Right.
You can't really go back now, but, it didn't play out in the most compelling way.
Right. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's not entirely fatal and they might bring her back after.
She's dead. She says she's dead.
All right. She's dead.
Never mind. She'll come back in the Mirror Universe episode next season.
Oh my gosh. Don't tease me. So Burnham goes through and she hits the hard reset on the computer systems, unplug it, plug it back in, right?
Yep,
and,
exactly.
Here comes the Starfleet operating system, comes back online. It's the normal computer voice. And we are back to pre-upgrade computer systems. So we've got the physical components, but it seems like the software itself is back to 23rd century.
At first order of business, of course, is restoring life support so that the crew doesn't die. She calls everyone to the bridge, and we head to the bridge. Aurelio is there too. Apparently, when she beams the regulators off the ship, computer knew not to beam Aurelio off, which was nice.
Yeah. Very selective.
Technically not a regulator. I know there's an actual reason why he didn't get beamed off. It just seemed a little convenient that the computer knew the difference. Tilly gives command over to Michael once they're all gathered back on the bridge, and insists that they need Michael to lead them.
Yeah, another thing that kind of disappointed me here when they all arrive back on the bridge and Tilly is standing next to the chair and Burnham is standing next to the console, the operations control console, and Tilly basically says, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. You take over. This is all you. And Commander Michael Burnham jumps into action, and I don't know if it was Tilly or maybe somebody else, and said, well, we have this plan. And instead of listening to it or thinking about it, Michael says, oh, you do? Cool, do it.
I mean, I think it makes sense in that Tilly gives command in this emergency situation over to the most experienced officer by far. So it definitely makes sense. It is a little, the way that they handled this Tilly in this episode, as we've discussed, it's a little, it feels a little bit like they're robbing her of all the badass agency they've been building up for her this season. It just felt a little, like I get that she said, I want you to take command and I'll make it an order if I have to. But, there didn't really seem 100% necessary given the situation.
Right.
To give command back over to Michael, considering they had just, retaken the ship. Mm-hmm. And, Michael didn't need to be in command for them to execute this particular plan.
Exactly.
So it did seem a little, fine. I have conflicted feelings about it, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not just conflicted. I actually didn't really like that because, as you put it earlier, not only did they rob Tilly of her agency and a beautiful character arc that would have had her redeeming herself for losing Discovery, and a lot of fans, a lot of criticisms out there of Tilly being acting first officer, right? And this kind of would have been a nice way to say, hey, no, screw you guys. Tilly has what it takes. I mean, they didn't call her Captain Killy in the Mirror Universe for nothing,
I mean, they do that. They did the last episode, and she certainly doesn't fall on her face this episode. But given how responsible for Discovery being lost she felt, and kind of was, it would have been a hard situation for anyone to navigate, but
sure.
She lost the ship. End of story. It would have really been nice to see her have a more prominent role in its retaking.
Yeah, I know that the camera loves to get up in all of the actors' faces, and I would have loved for the camera to get up in Tilly's face, very triumphantly, being like, I did this. I got the ship back, so not having that moment.
They both could have had hero moments. It didn't just need to be Michael.
Exactly. I think, Michael can share a little bit of that spotlight. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Like we were saying earlier, like there were two objectives and Michael somehow was in charge of both. Being directed. And it was an opportunity that was missed.
Yes. There's that key term, missed opportunities.
The plan. Aurelio thinks that Book, being the particular kind of empath that he is actually going to be able to connect to this spore drive. This was sort of set up last episode where Aurelio's talking to Stamets about his connection to the spore drive, and he says,
right.
You're not an empath. How do you connect to this thing? Which sort of, was that first inkling of like, maybe this was a solution that, in Stamets' time wasn't really on the table. But now that there are more empathic species that we know about and have access to, there are other ways of connecting to the spore drive without mycelial DNA, which kind of makes sense if they're going to have going forward this ship not just be the only one that can ever do it and have Stamets be the only one that can ever connect to it.
Right.
Having this kind of there's a particular kind of empath that can connect and fly the spore drive too. I think that opens up interesting possibilities for world building and storytelling too. So I kind of liked that.
It really does because, Booker is from Kwaijan, and this is a pre-warp planet that Osyraa was taking advantage of. And now we have access to Kwaijan, and we can bring in these individuals who are empaths. From what we learned in Book's Home Planet episode, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of these particular individuals with these capabilities. Right. It seems like they are limited, it's like a special ability within their people. But it's really quite interesting, and I do hope we get to explore it. I liked that we aren't going to rely on Stamets as a pilot for the Spore Cube. I do hope that it's handled in a way where it's not conflicting. It's not going to be like, as Michael and Stamets have their differences now, right? But is Michael going to be like, oh, well, I don't need you anymore, Stamets, so you're fired, and hey, my boyfriend can now be the pilot. I hope it doesn't go that direction.
I think there's zero chance it'll go that direction. I wouldn't be surprised just because of Stamets' personality if there wasn't some tension. Not just between him and Michael. I think, of course, there's going to be tension there.
Sure, yeah.
But between him and Book, similar to sort of what he had with Detmer, sort of like, you're not such hot shit. I'm really the person who pilots this ship. There's an element of Stamets maybe not wanting to no longer be a little special. I think that's a very human flaw that can be explored.
Yeah.
I think that could be interesting, but I don't think there will be anything as sort of blunt force as that kind of conflict.
No, of course.
And I do like the future opportunities for storytelling regarding, Book and his abilities. But for me, as much as I liked this particular wrinkle, it made me wish that I knew a little bit more about what the hell Book is and what he can do. And I don't need an encyclopedia entry on his species and their demographic breakdown, but a little bit more world building would be nice. This is a show that has a long history of introducing fun races and building those out. And obviously Vulcan mythology took multiple series and many episodes to build out that mythology. I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying we've had a season. Book is a character who's existed for the entirety of this season, and I still feel like I don't know who he or what he is.
Yeah.
On a sort of ability level. Obviously I know who personality wise he is, and I really like Book the character and Book the person. But I'd like to have a little bit more clarity on what he is and what he can do and what, Aurelio says, Book's kind of empathy, the sort of most we've learned about it so far is what we learned in this episode, that he can connect to other living creatures in a more tangible, way, and communicate to them in a more tangible way than a lot of empaths can, I guess. So that's interesting. But man, it would have been nice to learn a little bit more about that before now.
Yeah, and his connection with Grudge, the cat, he keeps saying this over and over. She's a queen. She's a queen. So, I know it's kind of played up for laughs, just the fact that they have a cat on the show. It didn't go anywhere. And I was a little surprised that that's all it was, just played for laughs and not really hey, listen, this cat isn't just a cat, but it's a special cat, maybe it's Gary Seven's cat. I don't know. It would have been, it just feels, again, missed opportunity, right?
Yeah, we get these little glimpses of him using his ability, and it's oh, cool. What are you doing? This is cool. What is it? What's happening here? It's not something that's immediately obvious just from the visual cues. And when that's the case, then look, I don't need an info dump, but after 13 episodes, I'd like to have learned a little bit more about this before now.
Well, here's the other side of this coin. You get also in this sequence, Booker promises to tell Michael, hey, listen, I have this mentor, from whom I got my name from. And if we get out of this alive, I'm going to explain it to you. I try to live up to this name every day. So it's hold on. Your name, Cleveland Booker, isn't actually your name? Hold up. We already knew that that's not his name from his time on Qui-Gon. What the heck is going on with this? Again, it's a thread that they weave in at the very end of the episode, basically, without any context, without any kind of predisposition towards, he had a mentor.
The mentor piece, you're right. I think there's a passing mention of his name and how he got it, and that there's a story behind it, in one of the early episodes, but I couldn't tell you for sure which one. It might be the one where they first meet, or it might be one of the ones where they're one of the early ones at Federation HQ. But there's really wasn't much there, and Book's clearly been on a journey, and he's in a opening his heart mode. They've kind of been there the last couple of episodes, he and Michael together. So
true, yeah.
This does feel like a continuation of that. Hey, I continuing to develop strong feelings for you. I really want you to know about this part of my life that is important, that matters to me. And I really hope that I live to tell you that.
Right.
That's all fine. We gotta have things to learn next season. And I really like that Book seems like he's gonna just be a member of the crew now. Or close to it. Which is great. Their chemistry continues to be a highlight of the season for me.
Yeah, David Ajala really brings in a lot of charisma, a lot of talent, and just general general joy to the screen. Like I really like his dynamic with Michael. I really like his dynamic with the crew. He started off kind of one-note-ish, and he really...
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Really developed over the course of the season. So for that aspect, yeah, I mean, this is again missed opportunities where the writers can create a character, tease a little bit more until they develop into kind of a really enjoyable presence on screen. And the fact that we don't get that with Tilly, for example, over the course of the season, we don't get that with Detmer and her trauma and PTSD story. It's all, oh man, again, missed opportunities. When we see the show can do something so well, the writers can take an element and make it so amazing, not just to watch, but to talk about. And then they kind of drop the ball on other things. It just makes it seem like, I don't know. It makes those valleys more prominent.
I mean, it's the whole show is written through, most of the show is written through Michael's, the lens of Michael. So the characters that do get that development, that do get a lot of that screen time, are the ones that matter to her. Tilly gets some. We both discussed that it wasn't quite enough this season, or didn't quite end up where we would have liked, but Book gets well developed to an extent, because he matters to her. Giorgio gets a 2-part backdoor pilot this season because she matters to Michael. The characters who matter to Michael, plus Saru. Not that he doesn't matter to Michael, but like that seems to be it. It seems to be Michael, the characters that are in close orbit to her that matter to her. And then everyone else kind of feels a little bit like an afterthought, which isn't, that's not a great feeling. I don't want that to be the case. I think there's probably a happier middle ground between what they're doing, the writers and creators of the show, and having it be a complete ensemble piece. I think that there's probably a happy middle ground somewhere between those two that they could find. I don't know if they want to,
hope
but they could find it.
Yeah. So the plan, Discovery needs to eject its warp core to destroy the Viridian, and Booker is going to engage the spore drive, and they're going to jump to the dilithium planet to save Saru, Culber, and Adira. What did you think about this whole, the warp core going down a laundry chute, as the one guy in Reddit put it?
Visually, it was stupid. I mean, I don't say stupid. It made me laugh in a moment when I don't think that was their intention. So whenever I encounter those moments, it's I have to wonder, like, was this the intent? It seemed a little bit silly as it was happening. I was like, really? Like this is the warp core. Why is it scraping? Why are sparks flying as it's scraping along the sides? Why isn't this a very streamlined process?
Yeah. So as the warp core is being ejected, we are treated to this visual of the core itself getting shot down what looks just like a literal empty cylinder in the ship. And it seems as though
not a well-fitted one.
Not a well-fitted one. It's bouncing off the sides. There's sparks flying.
It exists for literally no other purpose than to eject the warp core. This chute literally exists for zero other purpose. There's nothing else that ever needs to go in or out of this chute ever under any circumstances. There's no reason this thing shouldn't just be on rails coming out of that chute as fast as possible with no friction.
Right. I mean, not for nothing, but space is a vacuum. There's no gravity to affect the warp core. It's not like you just open it and it just plummets out.
I know.
It has to be literally disengaged from its connection to the ship and forcefully ejected. Like, you need propulsion behind it. So
it just scrapes and tumbles lazily down this chute.
Lazily down the laundry chute. Yeah.
It's not the most inspiring visual. That said, the shot of the disco, shot of disco with the warp core coming out, the external shot, that was dope. I love that.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Give me more of that.
It gives you an idea of the size of these objects. You have the tiny little warp core compared to Discovery, compared to this giant internal starship bay that is inside the Viridian. So really cool, striking visuals, and to get an idea of the size of these vessels and the size of these starships. I know that's one thing across the franchise that folks have kind of been curious about. Like, what is the size of this starship in comparison to, let's say, an aircraft carrier, or in comparison to, say, since we've referenced Star Wars, the Death Star, right? Like, what is the actual mass and volume? So it's cool to have these little visual ticks and be able to make these comparisons in such a way.
I would have liked, again, it's just a visual, not even a nitpick, just a wish. Like, I wish we'd lingered a little bit longer on the warp core explosion. We just don't get to see those a lot in Star Trek. It would have been cool to stick with that a little bit.
I mean, it's a massive implosion of the Viridian, and it's very cool to see.
The glimpse that we get is great. I just wish there was a little bit more of it because it's cool.
Yeah. I mean, hey, I'm a sucker for this stuff. Show me more. So we jump to the dilithium planet, and now we're gonna switch gears and talk about Captain Saru. We're gonna talk about Su'Kal and how this all develops.
Yeah, Saru is helping Su'Kal, face his fear, face this monster, and step through the door. He's got some good lines here. The one that stood out to me was his line, "Even in fear, you can still step forward." It seemed like the message of Saru in this episode for Su'Kal in particular, and the audience by extension, is that, the fact that you're afraid is fine. Like, that's not a reason not to do what's necessary.
Very
you can still take that step towards doing the thing that needs to be done, even though you're afraid. We got to see Oh do that earlier in this episode. She took those steps forward on what she had every reason to believe would be a suicide mission in order to save the ship.
Yeah. It's very pure. It's a pure Star Trek moment. Even in fear, you can still step forward. It could have been said by Sisko. It could have been said by Kirk. It could have been said by Picard. Very classic Captain Saru.
Yeah, it felt like a captain's line. It felt like something that could easily come out of Picard or any of the other captains, really. But yeah, and Su'Kal does. He steps through the door. He finds the mechanism to exit the program, and there's another moving sequence that worked for me. Really, I can't say enough. All the stuff that happened in the nebula this week really worked for me in the Su'Kal episode too.
Yeah.
All this whole story has really worked in these last episodes of the season. Gray despairs at becoming incorporeal again, which was such a. I just thought I loved that. Not for them, obviously. I despaired for them as well, but the notion of especially now that I've had a taste of what it is like to touch and see and be interacted with by others again. I don't want to go back to it.
Yeah. I mean, it's important to note that Gray is just a kid. Like, they're only, 16, 17 years old?
They're children. They're teenagers. Yeah, it's important to keep that in mind. They're teenagers.
And it's a little bit of a, maybe this is reducing it a little bit, but it's a little bit of Casper the Friendly Ghost here, where, they suddenly find themselves real. They want to be real. And they're not. So a little bit of Casper, Pinocchio. I mean, there's some of these themes here are repeating themselves.
And again, it's that last touch on the theme of this queer character wanting to be seen.
Yes, it's very lovely. Culber embraces them so
readily,
and promises we're going to find a way to have you seen by everyone. We mentioned it earlier. It's very on the nose. It's a big metaphor, but I have many, gay and lesbian friends, and this is important to them. they want to be seen by their community, by their family. They want to be loved and respected just as anyone, and rightfully so.
Right. This is a person saying, I'm here. I exist. Please acknowledge it.
Yeah.
I don't want to go back to a reality in which my existence is not acknowledged. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. And they disassemble in Hugh's embrace as Su'Kal ends the program after all this time.
Yeah, and listen, I've not been quiet about how kind of bored I was with the Adira Gray storyline, and I'll admit that throughout this season, I feel like that could have been handled better. But with this closing of the Adira Gray arc, I feel good about what's coming up in season 4.
I don't disagree. I think this was the best use of Gray since the introduction. I thought the introductory episode for the two characters, I thought their dynamic worked and continues to in this episode. This character needs things to do. Otherwise, they don't really seem to have a lot of purpose, which is, in a sort of meta sense, what Gray is tackling. He's trying to contend with, do I matter, when I don't seem to be made up of the stuff?
Yeah.
And it's going to be something that I am looking forward to them exploring more next season.
Yeah, it's very poignant. So Su'Kal turns off the holo for the first time in over 100 years.
Yeah, and we see bodies on the floor covered. But it's bleak. It's his mother and the remains of the crew.
Yeah.
And there's a holo recording of his mother's last moments of life. Her death triggering his cries of grief and as we learned caused the burn. Su'Kal kind of despairs that he was alone.
He was alone.
He was disconnected. One of the other themes of Discovery, which Michael does really tackle during the epilogue, kind of on the nose again. That idea of connection and losing connection with one another. And at the moment that Call felt utterly isolated from the universe was when his grief at that prospect isolated everyone in the universe.
Yeah.
Thematically, I like this. This felt right to me. I think that there could have been a lot of ways that they resolved the sort of burn mystery. And this wasn't one that disappointed me. I didn't feel let down or roll my eyes.
Right.
I think it's also and you know what? I could have. They could have done this and had it not work. I think it's a testament to everyone involved in this part of the story, making it work, not the least of which, Doug Jones is Saru.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the moments that I thought was really interesting here was when in the holo recording, Su'Kal's mother says, "Don't touch the console until the Federation arrives." So this whole time, the last directive that Su'Kal had from his mother is stay inside the holodeck, stay there, stay under safety, don't look at the bodies on the floor. And when this happens, Su'Kal is a very small child, like maybe 6 or 7 in human years
at most.
So it's very impressionable. It's the amount of grief I felt for him in that moment on screen. It was impactful. You have a row of bodies of your family, and yes, there are sheets over them, but it's grim and it's very powerful. And yes, that grief, that level of pain and agony, and the holo, you see young Su'Kal, he screams out in pain, causing the burn by mistake. It's an accident. He doesn't know. Of course he didn't know, and I think it's really a good thing that it's not an adversarial moment. It's not some evil entity that set out to cause the burn. It's just a sad child dealing with pain, isolation, and grief, waiting for someone to come who never does.
Yeah. Yeah. And, when he says, I was alone, again, another moving, poignant moment for Saru. He simply says, well, you're no longer alone. And, Su'Kal turns and he sees another Kelpian in the flesh.
For the first time in over 100 years. Yeah.
For the first time in over 100 years, he sees another living Kelpian. And, this sort of, I know I mentioned this earlier. It made sense to me. It's clear, especially here, after all this, Saru cannot just dump Su'Kal off at Kaminar. Like, I get why Saru had to choose to leave the ship, at least for now, in order to guide Su'Kal in this new future, and also for Saru. Saru has not returned to Kaminar. Aside from its liberation, and now it's a part of the Federation and modern and new. He has no frame of reference for what this new Kaminar is going to be like. So I get it. If you had told me before the episodes, or these last few episodes started, whether or not I would have accepted Saru not being the captain of the Discovery at the end of the episode, I probably would have told you to get the fuck out. I would never accept that, and I'll set you on fire for suggesting it. How dare you do that to my boy Saru?
Yeah.
But I get the logic of it given this setup. It would have made less sense for Saru to just kind of say, all right, kid, you're out of here, peace, and screw off back to Discovery.
Absolutely.
That would have been less in keeping with his character. So, I think that's what I'll say about that. I don't know how you felt about it, but, yeah.
Yeah, it makes absolute sense, and it's consistent with Saru's character. It stays in line with what we know of him. He is a very empathic individual. He cares so much, and he misses home. He's always wanted to go back. He was the first Kelpian to leave Kaminar and to join the Federation. So, for him to be the crux of Kaminar being freed of its chains, right? Because in season 2, you had this whole development where they break free of the Ba'ul, and with the help of the Red Angel, they're able to change the course of Kaminar's history.
Yeah,
eventually,
he might have statues to him built on that planet. He might be a messiah figure to them.
Absolutely,
that will be an interesting thing for them to potentially explore too. Is what is his role in that society today? 900.
Yeah. Of course.
In the future.
Of course, yeah. Today, in terms of, the reference. But what about his own family? Like his sister, came in at the very last minute and presumably went back to Kaminar, so they said their goodbyes. So he may have descendants that he doesn't know of. I gotta be honest with you, I was kind of expecting how Su'Kal was talking about, returning, or Su'Kal's mother basically has a pre-recorded message for the Federation saying, thank you, please return him to his family on Kaminar and in a specific neighborhood. And I was almost expecting a moment where Saru would be like, that's where I'm from, and it would have been, I would have accepted that.
There's still time for that next season too.
Sure.
Another reason why it makes sense for Saru to return to Kaminar is the Su'Kal's mom literally asks them, and who better than the only Kelpian,
right,
to take Su'Kal back, is particularly after the bond that they've developed, and it's quite likely Su'Kal's quote unquote real family no longer exist after all this time. We don't know.
Could be.
So who knows what their relationship continues to be going forward.
And Su'Kal is clearly very grief-stricken over the realization that it was him who caused the burn. He may not yet fully understand the ramifications, and that's part of what Saru is concerned about. Like, Su'Kal knows that he has impacted greatly the ability to travel, but he doesn't know the full extent of damage that was dealt. So as these realizations come, who can help him? He doesn't know anybody, and who better than Captain Saru at this point?
Right. Saru has the empathy necessary to help guide him through whatever feelings he's having of responsibility, which will probably be a struggle for him. I know that if I were in his situation, it would be a struggle for me too. Even having the intellectual understanding that something you did, through no fault of your own, you didn't choose to do it, but something you did.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Haha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Okay, round two. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, sorry, we were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right, ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Was incredibly destructive. Living with that is something that you need to learn how to do. It certainly isn't something we're born knowing how to do. The guilt that Sakal might feel, even though he's not literally responsible for what happened, he's responsible. He's not at fault for what happened. Processing the feelings around knowing that, I think someone with the depth of empathy that Saru demonstrates, I think having a character to guide him through that process is going to be really beneficial for him.
So Discovery comes back. They're able to jump right back to the Kiev here, and they beam out the foursome right out.
Yeah, they get rescued
as soon as the Kiev starts to crumble all around them. So it all happens like within moments. They get beamed out, and boom, the Kiev completely falls apart and is completely destroyed. Discovery jumps back to Federation headquarters. We have an extraordinarily, the briefest of brief moments of Su'Kal just like in awe of everything.
One of those moments that would have been nicer to stretch out a little bit.
Yeah, like one of those. And again, the pacing, the editing here, everything happens so fast in this portion that you don't really have time to sit and take it all in. Burnham arrives in sickbay where you have Culber meeting with Stamets and Adira, and they're all embracing. And although it seems like a happy moment, it's quickly turns, right? Because Stamets sees Burnham there, and he's just like, nope, get out. I don't want to talk to you right now. Which is totally real. I mean, I'm pissed for Stamets. I feel the same way as he does, even though I understand why Michael ejected him from Discovery and prevented him from getting captured. Like, yes, that was the right choice, but also you ruined your relationship with Stamets as a result. Had to be done. I understand. So I think season 4 is going to give us some good character conflict there. I know that's not necessarily what Roddenberry would have wanted, considering he didn't want conflicts amongst his own crewmates. But it does make for compelling drama.
Yeah. And, let's be really honest. That Roddenberry rule was a very dumb one. I think everyone could pretty much understand how that makes for a very challenging human interpersonal drama if there isn't any conflict.
Right.
It's also impossible to okay, we're supposed to imagine a future in which Michael does this very understandable, very by the book decision, makes this very understandable decision, and what? Stamets is just supposed to feel fine because we're in the future? That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah. And it represents a profound misunderstanding of how humans work.
Exactly.
I know that's not something we're allowed to say about Gene Roddenberry. But honestly, I think that rule also was like TNG era Roddenberry. Like he was, again, I love Gene Roddenberry, but like he did not.
Yeah, it was a little problematic.
Not at his best.
He was a little problematic.
He was also not at his best mentally or otherwise when Next Gen was going on. So that sort of concept of this is the way the future is. There isn't interpersonal conflict. Is just it's not real. I mean, none of this is, but it was the most fantastical element of Star Trek was this notion of people not having conflict in the future.
Exactly.
That was the hardest thing to believe.
Yeah. The rest of this epilogue kind of proceeds very quickly. You have a quick shot of different non-Federation worlds now coming to Starfleet headquarters and meeting. We have the Trill return. We have the Vulcans return, right? So we see them being greeted.
Vulcans and Romulans, yeah. So the new unified Romulan-Vulcan world rejoins the Federation.
Yeah, and it seems to be setting up right here for season 4, like we're going to be reuniting the Federation, bringing them all back and exploring new worlds. But first, we have a nice little run-in between Burnham and a character from episode 1 who we had been wondering about.
Sahil, yeah, I'm really glad they brought him back. It makes sense, especially given that this is technically the second part of that first episode.
Yep.
But what a good callback. Really happy to see him back. And yeah, I don't really have much else to say that other than it was probably my favorite part of this epilogue.
Yeah, he is officially made a lieutenant, which puts him in command above Harry Kim. A very fun note. Ensign Harry Kim has never been promoted before on screen, so for 7 years he was always an ensign. Poor guy.
So we're happy to see Sahil back. We get the dots getting repaired by Jet Reno and Owo, right?
Yeah,
she's working out. Yeah, so
it's a nice moment.
Doc gets repaired. Jet Reno didn't have enough to do in these last few episodes.
Agreed.
She's in a couple of them, just sort of as a background character. It's a little surprising. I know that, her appearances are based on her schedule. Maybe they only had her available for like a couple of pickups. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, it's when she does appear, I sort of expect to see her in the mix a little bit more. Just because I want to see her in the mix. She's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting here where Burnham runs into Sahil on her way to Vance's office, and she meets with Admiral Vance. And we have a very curious out-of-character scene with Admiral Vance, if you ask me, where he relates a story to Burnham about his own daughter and how doing her math homework, she didn't want to use numbers, she wanted to draw pictures. And even though that wasn't, quote, the right way, it still worked. So Vance says, I'll be damned if your way didn't work too, even though, we always butted heads and I once called you into my office and, gave you the talking to and gave you the business about doing things your own way. You got demoted, but now, your way seems to work. So I guess I'll reward you.
It's strange. It seemed like they wrote the scene because they knew they had to have it. Like I believe it was Michelle Paradise. She talked about having the Michael as captain being like where they knew they wanted the season to end, and they kind of worked backwards from there.
Right.
I remember speculating, I think on our Discord chat, that it felt as if that was what they did. Well, it is what they did. The showrunner basically said that was what they did. They worked backwards from Michael being captain, and this it felt like the first draft of how to get that done. It felt like, okay, we're just going to write a scene where this happens, and then we'll revisit it and make it work. And then they just left it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I really was a little bit disappointed by. Like I said, I kind of get the logic of Michael being captain, especially given the situation. We'll get into it maybe when we talk about the season recap, but, like leaving the captain's chair always should have been up to Saru. And I'm really glad that was the case. Like he wasn't forced out or punished for losing the disc, whatever. I'm glad that it was his choice to step away.
Leave, right.
And I'm glad that he, I understand that him picking Michael, to captain the ship out of his available options, like I get that kind of makes sense too. I would have liked a scene of Saru convincing Vance to appoint Michael, rather than have Vance just be like, hey, did you talk to Saru? You're the captain now. I would have liked, cause you're right. And what would have sold this to me coming from Vance was if Saru had to make the case to Vance and by extension the audience that Michael has grown since the insubordination, because he's had the opportunity to see that firsthand. Vance has not. Vance has not been working with Michael since that discipline, but Saru has. So if Saru had said, "Hey, I've seen all of this evidence while you weren't around. I've seen all this evidence from her that she has grown since that experience," and he convinces Vance that this is the right call to make, I would have liked to see that scene.
Yeah, it really would have solidified not only Burnham's place amongst the crew as captain, but it would have been a nice tie-in to the almost feud-like friendship they had at the very start of season 1. And having this full encompassing growth of episode 1, season 1, where they're butting heads constantly all the way to the finale of this season, where Saru is going to bat and saying, no, I need to step away, give the chair to Burnham because she is uniquely qualified with Discovery and her crew. Yes, 100% agree with you. That should have happened. It would have tied things up so nicely and given us some real meat to that closure.
Yeah, this felt like I'll go back to the analysis I had earlier. This feels like a first draft approach of how to handle this handoff, and I wasn't a big fan. It was a scene that I didn't quite buy. And again, it's not the it's not the end result. Like, I get the logic behind it. It's just that I didn't quite get how we got there in this sequence. And saving it for the short little epilogue scene with Vance just seems like an afterthought. Yeah, it just seems so first drafty to me.
Yeah, again, this goes to the pacing of the episode. I feel like between the lengths of time we spent trying to defeat Osira and the amount of time we spent with Su'Kal was so short by comparison. If we had just maybe flipped it, spent more time with Su'Kal, little bit of time with Osira, resolve that would have given us more breathing room for this epilogue. The final act really should have been, the last 20 minutes, of, hey, not only did we rescue Su'Kal, we're able to mine the dilithium now, here's Saru and Admiral Vance going at it about giving the chair to Burnham. It's just, we're expected to just accept that the ending happens as it happens without giving us the real meat. Like, we know that there's conversations being had. Show us those conversations. Show us the dialogue.
Right. It felt strange to have Vance telling Michael about a conversation that he had with Saru that was so consequential. Mm-hmm. I was so much more interested in what that conversation must have been like between these two men than I was than I was interested in this conversation here.
Right. And you're telling me I
didn't mind learning about Vance's family. That's great. But
sure.
It just seemed, this scene just didn't work for me.
Yeah, and you're going to tell me that Captain Saru doesn't have a conversation with Burnham about her career path after rescuing Su'Kal and getting back to the Discovery? You're telling me that we don't get to see their friendship at that point?
Right, leaving this scene like this is how Michael finds out that she's becoming captain. Like that. Yeah, that again didn't really pass the smell test to me. It seemed like we could have done with another scene or two with Saru, maybe Saru and Vance, and Saru and Michael maybe as well, and have that handled that way, or have the three of them again, have a joint conversation. All three of them are concerned with this conversation. Why weren't they having it together?
Yeah. And it's, I don't know, it just feels like the over-reliance on making sure that we all know that Michael's the hero and pounding it onto the screen. These long, lingering camera shots of Michael as she becomes captain. I could have done without those long, lingering shots. And I love Sonequa Martin Green. She's attractive. She's nice to look at. I'm not going to lie to you, but it didn't feel earned. Like, I didn't feel that moment of triumph that I wanted to feel for her finally getting the captain's chair after 3 seasons of conflict and strife and going through a mirror universe and meeting the person that you got killed, except it's her mirror counterpart, and dealing with Lorca, and then, the whole Red Angel and your mom, and it's just, it didn't feel earned. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about this in the season recap, but the pacing, they needed to let the story breathe a little bit. This is more evidence that the backdoor pilot for Georgiou was a bad idea from a season pacing standpoint. They could have extended the season order too. No, I'm just saying, and even if they were determined that needed to be part of the season, extend the season order. Tell them you need to go longer. You've literally done that in the show before. And this is a streaming series. Nobody needs it to be 13 episodes or nothing,
Right.
We're past that point, in terms of how entertainment is being, disseminated these days. So, make some adjustments. Have a little bit more of a plan for your season and how things are going to pace out over the course of the season. These season-long arcs for both story and character, can't be feeling rushed in the last 10 minutes of the season finale.
Yeah. And initially, I had kind of disagreed with you about the two-parter inside the Mirror Universe and focusing on Georgiou and that backdoor pilot. Only in that I enjoyed Georgiou as a character and I wanted to see more of that, and I was happy with what we got. But now, knowing how rushed these final moments were, it's I could have not done with any of that Mirror Universe stuff, and I would have rather had more time. As ironic as it is, I know how much of this episode really focused on Michael being the hero, but I would have liked more time to understand why they chose to give her the captain's chair, after everything this season set up, because they really pitched it as her leaving the Discovery. And it really compelling to me, at least in terms of the story, her leaving the show, not the show, but the ship, and maybe acting as a Federation ambassador or traveling with Book and getting into kind of space shenanigans apart from the Discovery would have been a really interesting dynamic to explore in season 4. And that's kind of where I thought the show was going to take us, where Michael was going to leave the ship, stay on the show, of course, but somehow they would work that. And flipping the script for me, I don't know. It's a stretch. It's a stretch. I really have to make a lot of concessions and hand wave in order to understand why this happened without having that even a conversation between Saru and Vance. Again, pacing, the directorial decisions made to maybe cut certain things out. Maybe that conversation did happen on screen and it was cut for time.
Which, in my mind, would be unforgivable, unless the scene just wasn't working. But I'll tell you what, this scene wasn't either. So, if you have to put one in, put the other one in. Look, it's not that we don't like Michelle Yeoh and Georgiou and all that. It's just that, that was sort of one of the concerns I flagged at the time, was that I like these episodes, but I'm going to be a little bit less fond of them existing if it's going to mean that the rest of the season ends up feeling a little rushed. And it did. It did feel a little rushed.
Yeah.
After 2 episodes that we highlighted for how well paced they were.
Right.
It couldn't help but be a bit of a letdown, to watch how this was paced, especially at the end.
Yeah. So the final scene, you have Burnham taking the captain's chair. Tilly reports that there is a mining vessel ready to distribute dilithium. So the Discovery's final mission is to jump back to the dilithium planet, collect that dilithium, and bring it to 2 separate Federation worlds. And one of them wants to thank the Discovery with their signature gelato.
Yeah, I think they're going to be visiting we're going to be seeing some stations being visited. Which is good. We can again save this larger conversation for our recap episode. I'm curious to see how back up and running the Federation is going to be next season. Is it going to be just no time had passed, or is it going to be really a slow rebuild? I know I have my preference of those two options, but I'm curious.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck. I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse. With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything. Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business. Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot. Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me. Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com. Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.
To see how it's going to go. But yeah, we get these new uniforms and a new catchphrase. She didn't need to consult Tilly about possible catchphrases. She had one ready to go, apparently.
She had one ready to go. Let's fly.
Yeah, I like that. It's not bad.
Oh, you like it?
Yeah, I don't mind.
All right. I got to admit,
it's fitting with especially the sort of the Red Angel suit from last season. She's, I see it. I see her. Yeah, it works for me. I'm gonna have to run the new uniforms for a little longer. But let's fly.
Yeah, I wasn't particularly fond.
Okay. They're okay. They don't really inspire, but I'll be honest, the season, the regular disco uniforms weren't my cup of tea either. So, it's sort of a lateral move to me. But I like that they have a splash of, department color now. I've been kind of missing that from the disco uniforms for sure. I think that's one of those things that like really makes it feel like a Star Trek uniform.
Yeah. I'll say that the big stripe down the right side is I don't know. It didn't sit with me very well. It seemed very like, oh, last minute. Oh shoot, we forgot to add, some color.
I mean, it's fine. It's fine. And the catchphrase is a little better than fine. So, all in all, it's fine. Like that's sort of how I felt at the end was, kind of bringing it back to one of my earlier comments. Like, unlike the prior season, at the end, I sort of was like, oh man, I can't wait to find out like what happens next. And now I'm just kind of like, well, I guess we'll have to wait to see what happens next.
Yep. As far as the catchphrase "Let's fly" goes, it just sounds like a cheesy airline blurb from the 70s to me. I heard it and I was like, okay, it's fine. Like you said, it's fine. I will say, it did kind of maybe remind me of, to bring in Schitt's Creek again, that scene with Moira doing the voiceover work for Larriere. She's like, put your derriere on Larriere. Try our in-flight meals if you dare on Larriere. Let's fly Larriere. Oh man. But hey, it's fine. Maybe it'll grow on me. I'm sure that the first time Picard said engage, everyone was like, I guess. Okay.
Some of the
it's just one of those things.
We also might be feeling about the whole Michael becoming a captain story is that, just her A-plot this episode was a little weaker, than the other. So, I don't know, like I'm not saying that there's a way that the episode could have been constructed other than the aforementioned, adding the Saru scene at the end there. Like, I don't know if there's a different way that this particular episode could have been constructed to have the Michael being captain ending feel a little bit better, but I don't know. Maybe they could have. It just felt little. It fell a little flat, which it shouldn't have given the circumstances. And it feels like there were opportunities to go slightly different directions with the storytelling decisions, not just over the episode, but over the course of the season, that would have made that more impactful in a positive way. Having this character, the main character of the show is built around her. There's always been that tension of the main character of the show.
Yes.
And it's a show that spends more time with its main character than any other Star Trek show. And it's not a captain. And so that always had this tension, which, could have been compelling. It wasn't always. And now it's always been the Michael Burnham show. And now that tension of it being the Michael Burnham show without her being in charge of the ship is gone. So I'm wondering if they're going to settle into a more kind of recognizable bridge crew dynamic now, which hey, that's cool.
Well, if that's the case, now they have no real excuse not to, right?
Which is what I'll be interested. One of the things I'll be interested to see is how they handle the crew dynamic now that if she's in the captain's chair and she's on the bridge all the time. She's on the bridge all the time. The audience is spending more time on the bridge. It means I want to learn more about these goddamn characters that are on the bridge with her.
One note that I had, not only just talking about, developing characters and, missed opportunities here, but turning back to Osira, in the epilogue, it Michael says that the Emerald Chain is basically completely fractured now that Osira is gone. And not only does that raise a lot of questions about who she really was, she's referenced as Minister Osira, which I thought was interesting. But I was really upset by them offing her so quickly. And if they do decide that they want to bring this character back, I would be totally fine with them just retconning the whole, they shot her dead and she was actually just really, really stunned,
sure.
Whatever it was. I'd be fine with it as long as it's explored in the right way, because I really thought maybe this could have been the Discovery's Gul Dukat, where she, is a complex character and we learn more about her being, yes, she's a villain to us, but she did really great things for her own people and she really cared and all this other stuff.
Dukat,
I don't know. It just feels like a little bit.
Dukat, and he became more complex as that show went on. So yeah, you could have done something like that. And, now if they want to, they'll have to start from scratch again, which again feels like a bit of a missed opportunity. And yeah, it felt like the whole chain fracturing without Osira. It felt like another way in which, we went from last week where we had Osira present a much more complex character, and we learned a lot more about the Emerald Chain. Apparently they have a functioning constitutional government with a constitution that needs to be amended. She talks about expending a lot of political capital to make sure that there's an anti-slavery amendment to the Constitution, and that she has enough votes for it to pass. That implies that there's a large and complex government outside of her, and yet her death just leads to its collapse. It does say it fractures. It doesn't say that it collapses. It doesn't say that it dissolves. It just say it fractures. So maybe there's going to be factions that we deal with. I can sort of buy that there was, imagine the Holy Roman Empire, right? Where you have this figurehead, the emperor, and then, when that particularly powerful emperor dies, or an emperor of Rome, there's infighting sometimes. There's factions being formed. There's, this area of the empire is now run by, this, king who decided to break off from the empire, and now they're responsible for this territory. I could sort of imagine something like that, but we're not given the impression that she rules like a king or a dictator. She just seems to be a particularly powerful minister. She's called minister. So, but yeah, it's another example of the relatively shallow world building that they did this season, that they didn't have to. They could have fleshed this out more so that we weren't left with questions like this.
Yeah. Gosh, that's a whole lot to go through. But what were your favorite standout moments of this episode?
Everything on the Nebula. I know that's a bit of a cop-out, but everything that happened with Saru and Sakal. I think the moments where Saru and Sakal are bonding stood out. I think if I had to pick one, certainly the, stepping forward through your fear moment, was one, as was the moment at the end when, he tells Sakal that he's no longer alone. That moved me.
Yes.
I think those two would be the standout moments.
Definitely when Sakal meets Saru outside the holodeck as a Kelpian and they embrace each other. That really was quite impactful for me. I enjoyed that scene. It was right in line with Saru's character. It was emotional, and I firmly believe that storyline will pay off in the coming season. Another moment for me, I really enjoyed the action sequence inside sickbay when Burnham breaks out Booker. That's such a weird alliteration. Burnham breaks out Booker. Burnham breaks out Booker. So, she rescues him and they defeat the regulators and they slip away, only to meet up in different areas later. I thought it was just a cool, fun action sequence, and I'm always a sucker for that kind of stuff. Sure. So, it worked for me. Yeah. Unfortunately, there was a lot in this episode, as we discussed, that obviously kind of took me out and I had issue with. So finding what really worked was a little bit more of a not necessarily a chore, but it took a little bit of work to find what really worked for me. I won't lie to you.
Yeah, I mean, at least for me, sort of like we mentioned earlier, having a clear delineation between the A story, the B story, and the B story worked entirely for me. I didn't have a problem with any of those scenes at all. And a lot of what was happening in the A story was fine too. But the things that weren't working, just, really pull you out. And, that's always a little frustrating with this show. I mean, it's frustrating with any show, but frustrating with this show because the things that work, when they work, are great. And so when you see that they're capable of doing that, it makes the failures more frustrating.
Right. And, the biggest example, the most egregious offense of this, in my opinion, is taking Tilly's hero moment away from her and giving it to Michael. I mean, the show already focuses on Michael and already, sets her up to be the hero of Star Trek Discovery. And I'm fine with that. I think Michael Burnham is a well-written character. She's very, layered, very dynamic. Sonequa Martin Green can act the hell out of her. It's wonderful. But taking all these great moments from other characters and giving it to Michael is just, I won't lie to you, it's a little exhausting to constantly have to see Michael save the day when I know for a fact that, like, hey, this should have been Tilly's moment. It shouldn't have been taken from her and given to Booker, or, like the MacGuffin that, resolves the Discovery escaping and blows up the nacelle. Tilly could have come up with that on her own. We didn't need that whole sequence of Michael telling a story. It's so those sorts of things really struck me as like taking me out of the episode from enjoying the episode in a way that would have been much more cohesive and organic. It's almost like they were like shoving it at me.
Tilly could have talked about Tilly could have talked about the time that she hid out in the nacelles herself. Like, she could have thought to herself, like, how can we need to drop the ship out of warp. How can we do that? Missed opportunities. We don't need to keep belaboring the point. We're going to be bringing it back up, I'm sure, in our recap of the season.
Exactly.
I've got a little soapbox section here in my notes that I will save for next week.
I can't wait.
It's basically how I think it was a mistake to lose Saru as a captain this early.
Okay. Well, I'll be interested to hear your take on that. Ian, did we miss? Oh, there was a lot. I don't think we missed anything, to be honest with you.
We didn't miss anything, and whatever we did, we're going to catch up on in our recap for the season. I think we should call it here and have mercy on our patient listeners.
Let us have mercy. Folks, if you enjoyed listening to our podcast, thank you. Please like and subscribe, hit those 5-star reviews, give us a follow, whatever other platform requires, telling us that we're awesome. Yeah. Because, gets those endorphins going.
Yeah. The other thing I like to see is email in our inbox. Once again, that is wearestarfleetwmtr@gmail.com. And, I know we're wrapping up the season, so we'd love to hear your thoughts on the season as a whole. And, if we have some by the time we do our season 3 recap, we'll happily share those on air. And, if we don't, as they trickle in the interim between seasons, we will, probably do a mailbox, episode.
Yeah. Ooh, that'd be fun. That would be fun. We do have, a few special guests coming on, so stay tuned to that.
Yes.
Other than that, Ian, do you want to take us out?
Let's fly.
Don't forget to check out WeMadeThisPod.com for more Star Trek related shows, such as Make It So, a Star Trek Picard podcast, and Rarely Going, a Lower Decks podcast. Folks, again, thank you. Ian, thank you.
Thanks as always, Mike. Good talking to you.
Elsewhere on We Made This. Frame to frame.
I mean, that was very nearly a James Stewart impression.
Oh, God damn it. There's supposed to be reindeer around here, but gosh darn it, I can't see them anywhere else. Oh, gosh darn reindeer around here. Anyway, sorry.
That I would have loved to see. Bad Santa starring James Stewart is what I would absolutely have adored to see.
I'm just trying to imagine.
Completely going against type.
Say there, Sonny, what would you like for Christmas there? That would just be the...
No, I don't care that we're recording the podcast. This is just for me now. Can you, as James Stewart, say the word fuckstick?
Free with this month's issue.
Last year's we had 6 CDs to choose from, one of which was a Christmas CD.
Yeah, we've got the remaining 5 because we fired one bullet on the Russian roulette.
Yep.
So last year we had Metal Hammer's Razor. So the remaining 5 in the chamber are X-Ray CD11 from X-Ray Magazine, Radio Kerrang Volume 1, Mojo's Blue Christmas, which is the bullet, at least for Ian anyway, Steve Lamac's Bootleg Session Volume 3 from Melody Maker, and Rock Sound Music with Attitude Volume 32.
Life's milestones.
With pet bereavement, you also have anticipatory grief a lot of the time if your animal is elderly or unwell. And oftentimes with animals, there's guilt involved. And that can be, have I taken them to the vet too soon? Or have I, waited too long? So there's all these feelings of grief which are just as valid in pet loss as they are in human.
I think to some extent there's an element of fear of stigmatization as well. You feel this bad, but you don't want people to know because they might look down on you.
Check out all of these shows and more on the We Made This podcast network.
We Are Starfleet is a podcast dedicated to Star Trek discovery and how it relates to the story, ethos, and canon of Star Trek. Join your host, Mike Slammer, as he sits down with guests from all over the world to talk disco. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Starfleet Pod. Follow for more Star Trek podcasts, such as The Sanctuary, a politics and economics of Star Trek pod, Rarely Going, a Star Trek Lower Decks podcast, and Make It So, a Star Trek Picard podcast. We Are Starfleet is produced as part of the We Made This network of podcasts. We Made This brings together popular culture podcasts around film, TV, music, and more that hopefully educate, excite, and don't take themselves too seriously. Check us out at www.wemadethispod.com. Original music composed and performed by Anthony Fuscaldo.